I need to slow things down. I remind myself to breathe and to relax my jaw, to stretch my arms, to loosen my shoulders. I read the news. I talk to my friends. I sit with Bethel members, and the level of anxiety collectively is extremely high. Fear, uncertainty, and unknowns. Some have described to me that after decades of being out of the closet, as the phrase used to be, there are feelings the broader culture is pushing them to be more discreet about who they love. I had a conversation with someone this week who was born in Central America and has her immigration papers, but whose friends are fearful to leave the house. She said she is walking around with all of her documents in case she is stopped. And I thought to myself, well, if I was stopped, I wouldn't even know how to prove my citizenship status on the spot. My driver's license, my passport, but I don't carry that around. And of course, I concluded that as a young Latina, the young Latina that I was talking to had layers of vulnerability, which I, as a white man who speaks unaccented English, does not. I do not know the exact percentage, but how many people at Bethel work for the federal government? How many are adjacent to the federal government, meaning are contractors or work on programs that receive funding? A quarter? A third? How many families in our circles had someone receive the fork in the road email? When you live inside the Washington Beltway, national headlines is a local reality. Shuttering agencies, firing probationary employees, some of whom had B'nai Mitzvah on this bima and moved back to the area to start their careers. Bureaucrats are not second-class citizens to be demonized. Federal employees are our neighbors. They are dozens and dozens of people in the sanctuary right now. They are people to be thanked for their service to the country, for helping the mechanisms of our country work. And while reform and efficiencies are certainly needed with 2 million employees in the federal government and many more in related programs, it feels like there is a systematic effort to tear it down. And there is. There is a tone of derision which is disrespectful, demoralizing, and often feels mean-spirited. The opening scene of Ray Bradbury's book, Fahrenheit 451, keeps coming to mind. The book is the 1953 dystopian novel which presents a future American society where books have been outlawed and firemen burn any that they are found. It is a world where everything is upside down and the government wants people to be content with the untruths and distortions they are fed. And of course, the book's name, Fahrenheit 451, comes from the temperature in which paper ignites into flames. The opening reads, "It was a pleasure to burn. It was a special pleasure to see things eaten, to see things blackened and changed. With the brass nozzles in his fists and with great python spitting its venom kerosene upon the world, the blood pounded in his head, and his hands were the hands of some amazing conductor playing all of the symphonies of blazing and burning to bring down the tatters and charcoal ruins of history," Bradbury opens the book with. With his symbolic helmet number 451 on his stolid head and his eyes all orange flame with the thought of what came next, he flicked the igniter and the house jumped up in a gorging fire that burned the evening sky red and yellow and black. He strode in a swarm of fireflies. He wanted above all, like the old joke, to shove a marshmallow on a stick in the furnace, while the flapping pigeon-winged books died on the porch and lawn of the house, while the books went up in a sparkling whirls and blew away on a wind turned dark with burning. Simultaneously, we are carrying the extreme uncertainty of the hostages being returned. It is day 498, and while today there is scheduled to be 3 more hostages released, each from kibbutz Nir Oz, a kibbutz we have formed a close connection to, over 70 hostages still remain. We are slowly learning of the conditions in which they were held, and in some cases, our worst fears are true. And we have a president of the United States with the Prime Minister of Israel smiling right at his side, declare that the United States is promoting the mass deportation of Palestinians out of Gaza so the U.S. can build the Riviera of the Middle East. There are countless other assaults on the rule of law, our constitutional democracy, and the seeming collapse of our nation's guardrails, which all leads me to need to slow down my breathing, be aware of what is happening inside of myself, be more aware of those around me and what they are going through. This upcoming Wednesday night at 7 p.m. here at the shul, we will have an open space for people to gather together. While we will focus on federal employees at this point and those impacted fields around it, all are welcome. So Wednesday at 7 o'clock. In therapy, there's a term, distress tolerance. It is the ability to manage difficult emotions and challenging situations without becoming overwhelmed, breathing skills, checking the facts of a situation rather than catastrophizing, reminding myself that feelings are not necessarily facts. The urgency, though, feels overwhelming. The speed and breadth of our political and civic norms shifting is hard to track. So what can I do? For me, I've been thinking about foundational values, trying to not respond to each headline, but what are some of my core values from which I can respond to these quickly changing circumstances? Where can I find my buoy for these difficult times? So let me offer 3 thoughts which are of this moment for me. This is not comprehensive and will change, but 3 areas I've been thinking about which have helped me respond to the events of the past weeks. The first is, we belong here. As Jews, we belong in America and have a foundational stake in our nation's success. While anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism have tried to push us to the margins and portray us as pariah in America, we belong here, and we cannot forget that. In 1975, our own Rabbi Sam Skolnick, our founding rabbi, said this in his Rosh Hashanah sermon in 1975. Judaism is a vital ingredient of democracy and the democratic ideal. Its emphasis on law and justice is the dominant motif of our most sacred book. Its emphasis on the individual as created in the image of God goes back to the first chapter of the Torah. Its emphasis on God as the supreme king to whom all earthly kings are subservient is a message of the prophets that has never been forgotten. Its emphasis on making the most of this life and its assurance that everyone is equally entitled to a better life form a dual theme that permeates Jewish existence. Rabbi Skolnick continued, the greatness of America is derived from the variety of traditions that were brought here in colonial times and that were strengthened in succeeding generations. While some thought that the melting pot was the ultimate salvation for America, today we understand that such blending would only spell the country's ultimate doom. for creative tension flows from different cultures coming into contact with each other and from their continuing interaction. America thrives on its diversity and inclusion. We flourish when we bring cultures together rather than try to have one culture dominate all others. Diversity is not a threat to America. It is the secret to our success. There have been eras when we have forgotten that basic fact, but do not let us lose sight. We belong here, and it is our responsibility to help lift others up alongside us. The second is humility. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks wrote in his book, Morality, Restoring the Common Good in Divided Times. And the book came out in 2020. In it he writes, God wrote Rabbi Abraham Cook, dealt kindly with his world by not putting all the talents in one place, in any one man or nation, not in one generation or even in one world. Each culture has something to contribute to the totality of human vision and human wisdom. The sages said, who is wise? One who learns from all people. This is the Jewish equivalent to the story of Socrates. The Delphic oracle proclaimed Socrates the wisest in Athens because although he knew nothing, everyone else also knew nothing. Whereas Socrates alone knew that he knew nothing. The Jewish variant, Rabbi Sacks continues, the Jewish variant states that we all know something. The wisest is the one who knows that we all know something and is therefore willing to learn from everyone. For none of us know all the truth, but each of us know some of it. At this moment, we are pushing a myopic truth of the tech bros, or let us remember the humility that we need each other to learn. We need each other to find the truths we each hold. In the story of Socrates, he was the wisest because he knew that others had the truths too. And that requires the humility to listen to each other, to listen to insights and our pains and our worries. And the third is courage. We need to draw upon courage for this moment. Marianne Edgar Boudet, the Episcopal Bishop of Washington, wrote in a book in 2023 before her now famous sermon at the inauguration prayer service, and it is titled, How to Learn to Be Brave, Decisive Moments in Life and Faith. And she wrote it following the incident of President Trump during his first term, standing in front of St. John's Church in June of 2020, the church she serves. It is about living with courage at big moments is the result of finding smaller moments to practice courage and bravery. She calls the big actions that we may take as decisive moments. She writes, we all want to be brave when it counts, to be the one who steps up, leans in, and does the right thing when it matters most. We want to bring our best selves when we're called upon to speak with clarity, conviction in a pivotal situation. She continues, I examine life through the wider lens and hope that you, the reader of her book, will realize that you have all the raw material to live with courage and purpose in your decisive moments and all the moments that precede and follow them. Decisive moments, she writes, are marking events. Yet decisive moments are almost always preceded by seasons of preparation, and they are followed by an equally important season of alignment. How we prepare for decisive moments determines our ability to step up to them when they come, and how we live in light of our decisive moments is, in the end, what determines their significance. So just as the Israelites prepared for Mount Sinai and that decisive moment, we too must lean into the smaller moments of preparation to live with courage and to be brave. Confidence that we belong here, humility, and courage. These are some of the core values I have been reminding myself of at this moment. It is part of my own distress tolerance skill to slow down, to remind myself of these core values, and to reach out to others. Join me as we find our place in this moment, as we at the synagogue reach out to others in our community to help them know that they belong here as well. I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday night and in all the work that we need to do together ahead. Shabbat Shalom.